Yeast cells. You probably heard about yeast cells before, in the context of, for instance, baking bread, brewing ale, or making wine. But have you heard the Latin name? Saccharomyces? Probably not. It means sugar fungus, and it's a pretty accurate name, because yeast is pretty much a sugar-eating mushroom. Yeast has to eat regularly to be able to reproduce and grow. And just like myself, yeast loves sugar. Sugar is the preferred choice of food because it contains the most energy for the cell. The little sponge can be found in the nature. The main source of yeast used to be from the skin of fruits actually, but it could also be found on dead animals and in our air. Although today we're able to create our own yeast in factories with help from some basic chemistry. Yeast is a lifestyle for mushrooms. It basically means that they only consist of one cell, and in that single cell they can manage to store food, process it, and get rid of residues. The biggest use we have for yeast today is how it produces alcohol and carbon dioxide as rest products. The process is pretty simple. One simply adds sugar to yeast and it will react. If you're baking bread and you add yeast, the bread will eventually swell up. This happens because of the yeast reacts with the sugar in the bread and starts to release carbon dioxide. And since the gas can leave the bread, it will instead create bubbles in the bread and make it swell. If you would look closer at alcohol, you'll also notice that there's bubbles reaching for the surface. This is actually our friend, the carbon dioxide again. And since a lot of alcoholic beverages are produced by yeast, it simply becomes a bonus with the bubbles. Yeast has a very effective way of reproducing. It's called budding. The yeast cell starts to grow a copy of itself on the side, and it remains there until it becomes mature. When the cell is old enough, it detaches and creates an individual cell which is genetically identical to the parent cell. A lot of research is being made about yeast cells. This is mainly because the similarity with human cells. Although the perks with yeast cells is that they can reproduce a lot faster than human cells. Also, they're more resistant against threats. The yeast cells are without any doubts one of the most understood and researched cells today, and a lot of our science is based on it.